So that's where we are today.
So Anaheim is a semi-arid place. Radiator Springs is in a desert. So a challenge for our team was turning Anaheim into a desert. And so now we'd like to turn it over to one of the unsung heroes of our project. You don't hear a lot from her, but we're going to give her a chance to speak to you today. I'd like to welcome Jennifer Mock, who's in charge of landscaping.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, John, for including me. The landscape is an integral part of creating the immersive guest experiences, and Cars Land we hope we deliver. As we master planned the land, we saw, oops, let me back up. Sorry. We master planned, we saw two districts emerging, the downtown Radiator Springs and the desert. In the town, we sought to design the front yard so they really express the character that owned it. And first off, we have Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, and everything here is crooked and rusty and bent, but we have a loose cluster of oaks and Indian rosewood and understory plants with great names like Winter Fat and Brittle Bush and Mormon Tea. That was a lot of fun.
We wanted to just sort of add more shade into the land than the movie had, and so that was one of the challenges, to sort of still not all of a sudden make it feel like that it's Radiator Springs has been put into a different climate, but to have shade, but to still feel exactly like the sort of the Southwest climate that Radiator Springs is in.
Exactly. Some of the other, another front yard we played with was Sarge's. Sarge's is very crisp lawn, flat-topped shrubs, so we thought maybe we'd take another level and add a tree. And you'll see in the inset picture, this is an olive that was salvaged from the Disneyland Hotel renovation, and currently Disneyland Horticulture is grooming it for its debut.
Giving it a military haircut.
Nice and sharp. In that study for placing shade trees, these didn't appear in the film, so we had to start looking at how would we visualize these. We played with artwork, we looked at 3D modeling, and we took actual images of specimens and photoshopped them into the model views. That's very helpful. Flows is very stylish and swell, and we took Palm Springs as our inspiration for a very modern, hip plant palette with Mexican blue palms, Palo Verde, desert spoon, blue agave, and silver torch cactus. Lots of texture. Luigi's doesn't really have a front yard, but we imagined its backyard to be an Italian garden tribute to tires. And here on the left is my inspiration image. The center image is the planters that are carved like tires, and they'll be alternately planted with olives and Italian cypress. We have, I call them tire poodle topiary too, and that will be featured in this garden. And now to build a desert in Anaheim, yes, we had a lot of research to do. Oh, let me back up one sec. The climate isn't quite desert, but we went through lists of Southwest desert natives, California natives, and similar species. And along the way to buying almost 500 trees and cactus specimens, you find yourself in some very interesting places. And this is in northern LA County, so it's not too far, but it's an amazing collection of cactus and found art, amazing tool collection. and some of the folks that helped us. My tree broker on the left, some vendors who've been in the business for a long time, and everybody comes to this family for cactus. And somebody you may recognize on the right, made out of horseshoes.
That's cool.
So you'll see the inset picture is Sally and Lightning going on their drive through Ornament Valley, and trying to find the right conifer was challenging, but we found one that looks pretty dead on.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So this is the
Like
far start of this is the start of the racers, which we call road trip. And our last marching order from John was to find a collection of curiosities for Stanley's Oasis. And we hope we're delivering that.
Yeah, the odd
Yeah.
plants.
So Pixar actually has a theme parks division, believe it or not, that works very closely with Imagineering. And this next gentleman has worked at Pixar for a long time, and he's done all kinds of work for them. If you've seen Mike's New Car, he was the co-director of that. And I recommend you listen to the director's commentary on that, so when you go home, watch your DVDs. Most insightful commentary I've ever heard in my life. So you'll have to wait for that. But to tell us a little bit more about the audio animatronics and other aspects of Radiator Springs Racers, we have Roger Gould from Pixar Animation Studios.
Working with Imagineering is so fun because we get to do what John talks about as the goal for every one of our films. That our film should be so coherent, should be so believable that when you finish watching the movie, you believe that the characters and the worlds live beyond the boundaries of the film. And that's what we're doing here. We get to literally bring the film out of their world and into our world. One of the challenges, and this is true on every attraction we do, is figuring out where are we in time of the story. Because Cars is a world that evolves, and it has in Cars 2. And so we said, well, when we're in Radiator Springs Racers, we want to be with the town. We want the feeling of the first film. Second film wasn't designed yet. We wanted to be in the first film, and so we wanted to see that Rusty's Lightning McQueen. And so we also wanted Doc to be our crew chief. And knowing that he's passed on by the second film, that placed us in what we call Cars 1.5. Out in the land, you're going to actually get to meet and greet with modern Lightning McQueen, Cars 2 Lightning McQueen, with his World Grand Prix styling. And so out in the land, we're in a post-Cars 2 world, and Cars of the world is going to continue to evolve and grow, and so that'll keep going as well. So what we had to do in so many places in the land and the attraction sphere, well, how do we extend the world? Flo's great place for food, but we found right away, well, we need to have seating. There's no room inside. So we actually ended up designing an expansion of Flo's, right? Thank you. So there'll be plenty of indoor room. And what was really great was John said, okay, that's fantastic. Wait, so that's at the end of the first movie, the town has revived because Lightning has moved there and they've got a lot of new customers, so sure, Flo would expand. And in fact, these are pictures from the Cars 2 model because John said, well, let's put that in the Cars 2 movie because that's in that same time period. So it was fun that the Imagineering design actually ended up in the film. Inside Flo's, we're like, well, what's her story? And so we've created this fantastic story of, well, you probably didn't know that she was part of a girl group in the 50s and 60s, Flo and the Motorama Girls. And there are a lot of great...
She was a true show car.
Yeah. And she had hit records, and gosh, maybe you'll get to see some of those album covers and some of those song titles, and it's really fantastic. We also knew that we needed to go into Ramon's and see Ramon at work, because in Radiator Springs Racers, as John said, we can get a fresh paint job. So if you want to know who Ramon is, you just need to go to Chifusa's shop. So we went down there for research, and it was fantastic. And he pointed out that he uses a green tape, which he didn't even particularly think much about, but he says there's a big market in South America where they see his show, and there's a big market for green tape. So we designed Ramon's shop, and we designed his control booth where he's actually going to control the system. And if you look on the back shelf, there's the green tape mixed in. And so we designed this for Radiator Springs Racers, and then John worked in the scene in the film Cars 2 where you needed to see Ramon's shop, and so that same fantastic color system ended up in the movie, and it's so good. It's the best in the world. In fact, it's the World O Color custom paint system. Now, when you're going through Luigi's on your way to ride the flying tires, we wanted to populate that with all the memorabilia of his life and his story. So we have beautiful old photos of Uncle and Mama Topolino from Italy. He even has a personal blessing from the Pope Mobile. So you're going to feel absolutely at home when you're there. John always talks about research, and on the Cars film, they had gone out on Route 66 and said, that's great, you're going to build Cars Land, and go out on a road trip. So we contacted Michael Wallace, who literally wrote the book, Route 66, The Mother Road, that really has led to the modern kind of interest in Route 66. And we went out on a fantastic road trip starting...
He also did the voice of the sheriff in Cars and Cars.
Oh my God, he has the most incredible voice.
He's the greatest storyteller I've ever heard.
Yeah, and so he's telling you about, this is the last brick that was laid here in 1942. But then also when he's like, this is the last restroom before we go out, everything seems really important. That voice is amazing.
And every morning he would come up to me and say, are you frightened?
I love this bottom picture because Michael is pointing something out and not one of us is looking at it. This is probably toward the end of the trip, but
It's all about documenting. We'll listen to what he said. So when we were out there, one of the questions we had is, well, where are we going to load this huge Radiator Springs Racers attraction? Because you can't be in the town. At one point we had talked about, could the courthouse...
Well, the original idea was it was up more in the town, was the load and unload. And there was the track, there was issues with the track and stuff, and they needed the track to be moved back closer to the show building.
Yeah.
And so that was like, oh, well, what are we going to do? This
where
doesn't
are
make
we?
any sense. And I actually encouraged the team to, let's think beyond what you only see in the movie.
Yeah.
We could start showing other stuff, because I always view that the world is much bigger than just that you see in the movie.
And that's what's so great. We got to this place, Yellow Horse, and we saw these two huge caves, and like, that's funny, that kind of looks like Load and Unload. But they're renaming that town Load Unload. But we said, oh, that's fine, but why are we there? Why would anyone go out there? We said, well, Stanley founded the town. We know that because there's a great founder statue, and we know that he was a couple with Lizzie. But what's his story? So we started delving into, well, where did this come from? Well, there must have been the Radiator Spring, that original bubbling water out in the desert that Stanley found. And so we're building it, and it coincidentally looks like the front of a car with a radiator cap, and the water will be bubbling out of the radiator cap. And we said, well, Stanley must have been going across the desert, and he found that water down to his last drop, and he was so happy. And being kind of a salesman, a radiator cap salesman, he decided that he should sort of lay down his roots. And we'd seen so many cool old buildings, even remnants of old buildings out on our field trip. We said, okay, well, he had that water, and he said, okay, this is kind of like his wall drug gag, free water. So come on, get your nature's no foolin' coolant, and come in and get your free water at Stanley's Oasis. And while you're there, of course, you'll have, probably popped your radiator cap, so you can go to Stanley's Cap and Tap and get a new radiator cap, and he's got every make and model. And if he doesn't have it, it's free.
We had... And this was, when we were thinking about, as we were developing the first movie, we came up with a whole backstory of the town, that Stanley, a steam-powered car, was coming across the country, and found this spring, and he decided that he saw other cars coming by, and the desert was so hot that they kept blowing their radiator caps, and so he just decided to stay there and sell.
It's a deleted scene from the first movie. I mean, we didn't just invent it. We wish we had. But no, it was a deleted scene from the first film where they actually tell.
So I dug it up and
story.
showed it to everybody, and then it in fact, there was an early drawing of his tap and cap, the shack that had this old radiator look. Because that's one of the things that you find on Route 66 is that every building is built like a gimmick to get you to stop.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to try to put into this.
So you're going to,
and we turned him a little bit into a snake oil salesman too, because at the original Springs Nature's Coolant, that billboard that you had up there had stuff like, eliminates rust, turns back the odometer, and it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's great. And in fact, his Oasis grew. So you're going to see a variety of buildings in very, very different styles, including the comfy cavern motor court. So you could stay in a cave. So it's been really fun creating and expanding this world.
very rich detail. So as you're in the queue area, there's going to be lots and lots of to look at and kind of history.
Yeah. So obviously one of the most important things in bringing the main attraction to life, the e-ticket, is bringing the cars themselves to life. And of course we knew we would have Mater and McQueen in there, but, you know, John likes to say sometimes more is more. And so we're going to have, you know, the entire town brought to life. You saw Red downstairs, and, you know, they are all going to be at that level of beauty, and they're big. What's really fantastic is because these characters all exist digitally, we have fantastic 3D data of all of these. And so we're actually now have an amazing working partnership with the Imagineering Model Shop, where we literally give them 3D data, and then they actually can mill that out. This is driven by a computer taking huge blocks of foam, and it literally, like a sculptor carving away, carves away to leave just the data. And so these are exactly on-model characters from the film brought to full-scale life, and it's just been so thrilling.
So exciting.
Sometimes dangerous, but really thrilling. And it just, at one point, I mean, we felt like we were producing more original cars than Detroit. I mean, we had so many cars. We were crowding the model shop. We had to use a crane inside the building to lift Mac's cap onto his cab there. It was just incredible. There is actually, Mac is the very first figure installed on site.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I just Friday walked through the ride, and there he is.
He couldn't believe it. He's so
The real
startled to be the
Mac.
first
It's
one.
Amazing.
If you were here at D23 2 years ago, anybody? You saw Lightning McQueen and the technology we've come up with to help bring his face to life. But we didn't actually let you hear the audio. I thought this is just a line from the first film that we used to test this out.
I'm in this little town called Radiator Springs. You know Route 66? It's still here.
So we've got a long road ahead of us to bring all these characters to life, but it's just so exciting, and it's magical. And it is literally seeing these characters that only exist behind our computer screens or up on a movie screen, walking around them. You've seen some of them downstairs. It's fantastic, and I can't wait for it to open.
And Cars Land is to me one of the definitions of, you know, of what we're striving to do with California Adventure, and give the level of detail, the you know, the storytelling in the land, that you're there, and everything you see helps tell that story. And it is just from the beautiful landscaping to the rock work to the buildings to the rides to everything is focused on the storytelling, that you are transported to Radiator Springs and you are there. And even to the point of the folks who do the food in the parks have gotten so inspired by Route 66. I mean,
They took their own trip.
They took their own trip and really researched the kind of food that you find there. The food at Flo's and at the Cozy Cone are so clever and so delicious. We had the
Favorite being chili con queso.
chili.
Awesome.
It is like you are going to be able to get in the Cozy Cone. All the food items are kind of cone inspired, and they came up with this fantastic bread, a bread bowl but it's designed in a cone, and so you get chili con carne.
Sally came up with this.
Fritos on top of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Sally came up with it. It's actually, she's having today a special food conanza that is, she's hosting it.
There you go. And
they found
except
that
churros, so we haven't. Well, we do the same thing, Kevin, all the time. He says a pun and we don't laugh. But we love him. But with the thing we couldn't really figure out how to put into a cone is a churro. So you can get churros, but they're still just great.
So with that, there's your update on Cars Land.
There's one more.
But wait, there's more. We're going to go from the deserts of Radiator Springs racers to the jungles of the world now. John has a very special announcement that he'd like to make about a certain something he's looking for. So, John?
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, I was a Jungle Cruise skipper. And I was it changed my life, and I mean it. It taught me about comic timing. It was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And, you know, I would still be a Jungle Cruise skipper if I didn't get hired as an animator at Disney, you know, and because I just absolutely loved it. And, you know, I was able to, in the 50th anniversary of Disneyland, I was able to go and don my skipper outfit again, and when I told my sons, because I've been telling them all their whole lives that I was a Jungle Cruise skipper and what it meant to me, and we always ride the Jungle Cruise when it comes to Disneyland. And, you know, when I put and I said, I'm going to get to put my Jungle Cruise skipper back on, you know, my outfit back on and do the Jungle Cruise again, and my son says, it still fits? No, it's like, no, it's a different one, Jackson. My little one was like, it was really funny. And and I have this great picture, you know, a number of pictures of me there in 2005 at the 50th, and it was so special to me to be able to do that. The problem I have is that I don't have a picture of me in 1977 and 1978 when I was Jungle Cruise skipper. So today we're announcing a contest. And this is very, very special and very kind of important for me because this is such an important part of my life and I don't have a record of it. I remember a lot of people taking pictures of me with them and all like that out there. So today we are announcing a contest for you to dig through your old pictures and try to find a picture of me from 1977 and 1978 of me as a Jungle Cruise skipper.
Are those just the summer months, or what months were you there?
Yeah, so to be specific, I was trained in Thanksgiving of 1977. I worked Christmas, the holiday season of 77. I worked Easter of 78, grad nights of 78, and through the summer, partway through the summer of 1978. So it's really kind of like about a 9-month kind of period. I was a sweeper in Tomorrowland the summer the Space Mountain opened, which was 77. So, but it's a Jungle Cruise picture that we're interested in. Now, Pixar invented digital compositing. We know a fake when we see it. They don't count. They don't count. So, and if someone, and I'm really hoping someone out there does find one, you know, and sends one in, and if it really is a picture of me as a Jungle Cruise skipper, they get to come to the opening of Cars Land as our guests. They get put up in the hotel and be there with us on opening day, you know, and it's going to be really be a VIP guest of theirs. So that is the prize that you win, which is extremely special. So, no, that's a good question. I will. That's it. They asked, do I have a picture of what I looked like back then? And so I will dig through my stuff and find a picture of myself around that, and we'll post it on johnofthejungle.com so you know what I'm, you know, what I looked like back then. And so anyway, it's sort of fun. It'll be on the this website also. I think that
On Facebook as well.
yeah, on Disneyland Facebook page.
On the Jungle Cruise Facebook page.
Yeah, Jungle Cruise Facebook page and stuff. So we are very excited about it. I'm very excited about that because it's such a truly an important part of my life, and I would love to have a photo of me. So anyway, that is our contest, and I think it's pretty fun. And if you win, it'll be great. I'll be very thankful. So, and you'll get to come to Cars Land opening. So with that, join me in thanking Roger Gould, Kevin Rafferty, Jennifer Mock, Kathy Mangum, and John Lasseter. We thank you for coming out today. And we'll see you at Cars Land next year.